Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Little too cold for golf today, so you're in the clear on that one.
Yeah, thank God. Another loss.
Wanted to get your perspective real quick on this game coming up tomorrow between St. Joe and Mater Dei. As you guys played both those teams, we just talked to Coach Sacco, and he said he's getting sick of watching film of Mater Dei. He just wants to get out there and play. What do you see on film when you look at both these teams?
Both these teams, I mean, obviously we wish we were playing tomorrow, but both of these teams, I mean, it's really just a traditional St. Joe's team. I mean, they're big up front. They're physical. They want to run the ball as much as they can, and they do a really good job of it. I mean, with Q in the backfield and the Byers kid, it's just exciting to watch. And then with Mater Dei, their quarterback's the real deal. I mean, he's a good player. Their offense runs through him, so St. Joe's is able to stop him and contain number 12. I think Pearson is his last name.
Yep, George Pearson. Yep.
Yeah, I think it really gives St. Joe's a good shot at coming out on top.
Yeah, you mentioned George Pearson. He's a Central Michigan recruit and a really an outstanding quarterback. What did you see when they played you guys? What was so tough to stop about him?
I mean, if you look at him, I mean, he looks like a high school version of Cam Newton. I mean, he reminds me of a lot of our quarterback, Josh Samat. I mean, he's got a great arm. He's able to run, and they do a really good job of getting him the ball in open space. They really spread out their receivers, give some empty looks to clear out the box a little bit. But and it's not just him. I mean, he in the second half of our game, he was limping around. He could barely walk, and he was just a tough kid, still making plays. And they got a great running back, the sophomore. I don't know their names too well.
Yeah,
but,
Ingram. I'm not sure of his first name, but
I mean, he was a great compliment to him, and credit to the Pearson kid for battling through whatever injury he had, and hopefully he's all right for tomorrow.
I think that might be one of the keys, Coach, to this game is can Mater Dei get enough of a rushing game going to at least force St. Joe to respect that and not just, kind of pin their ears back and go after Pearson?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to establish a running game. It's going to be tough for Mater Dei to drop back 30 times a game, 35 times a game and throw the ball. They're going to have to establish a running game, whether it's with their quarterback or with their running back. They'll have to get something going because St. Joe's defensively, just as they are offensively, are very physical. They're going to get pressure. They do a great job defensively of mixing up their looks, and they're going to do a good job. It should be a really good game.
We're talking with Coach Andrew Dipasquale, assistant coach over at Holy Spirit, kind of getting some insight on St. Joe versus Mater Dei. And, Coach, when I look at this Pearson kid, when you watch him throw the ball, you're just thinking to yourself, man, those are next-level throws he's making. He's hitting that deep post in. He's hitting that 20-yard out. I mean, not a lot of throws that most high school quarterbacks can make consistently.
No, it's really impressive to watch him on film because he really scans both sides of the field. I mean, he can make any throw you give to him, and it makes it tough defensively because you really have to be on your game, reading your keys, depending on what coverage you're in, and you just have to be on top of everything.
How tough does that make it on say, a safety at the high school level when you have a quarterback that can look a guy off? And, a lot of times in high school, the quarterback's sort of staring down the route, and you can kind of maybe bait him into going to the receiver you want him to go to.
It really changes everything because defensively you think you have good coverage, and you realize that they can really fit the ball in a tiny window, make you realize you don't have as good as coverage as you thought you did. And then especially with that kid, I mean, even if you have good coverage, he can just tuck the ball down and start running because he can move.
That's a great point because I'm sure some of the fans, Holy Spirit fans, late in that game were like, oh, why are they giving up a 20-yard play on 3rd and 12, and you're sitting there as a coach saying, well, not many quarterbacks can make that throw.
No, I mean, and a play specifically sticks out in my head. I mean, we had good coverage. Josh ended up slipping up on a play at safety. He tripped, and the quarterback, I mean, they executed on 3rd and long, and they did a really good job in bad situations, 3rd and long and 4th and long, and making good plays and capitalizing.
Talk with Andrew Dipasquale, assistant coach over at Holy Spirit, and Coach, when you look at St. Joe, obviously they're what you expect from a St. Joe team, but that offensive line, man, talk about those guys a little bit because they're just so big and they wear you down throughout the course of a game. I mean, I know you guys had a lead on them for a long time in that game, and it just seemed like their offensive line just kind of wore you guys down as the game went on. I know you were missing Baker Coley there for that game. He was, coming off the 30-day transfer rule. But even so, I mean, it's just tough to go up against a line that big for that many plays.
Yeah, I mean, they're a big offensive line. Like we said, it's just a traditional St. Joe's team. I mean, we came out, I think we were up 13 or 14-0 maybe in the first quarter. And the game was second week of the season. I can't really remember the exact details. I think we had the lead going into halftime.
I think it was like 26-14 or something. I think they scored late to cut it, right before halftime. But yeah, you basically had a 2-touchdown lead, and they just kind of kept coming at you and wearing you down, especially the second half with that running game.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many times, barely any, they passed the ball in the second half. I mean, it was just ground and pound for them, and their offensive line, credit to them, they were just dominating us in the second half, and I think that's going to be a major key for them tomorrow. I think they're going to be able to run the ball really effectively.
How tough is that mentally on a defense when you know that the other team's going to run the ball? You got 9 in the box, and you still can't stop them. I mean, that's got to be really demoralizing to a defense when you know exactly what's coming and you still can't stop it.
It's extremely frustrating, and it's credit to the offense. And we tell our kids the same thing all the time, where offensively there's nothing worse as a defensive unit to know what's coming and still not being able to stop it. I mean, at that point, you know that they have your number or you have their number, and it's just as an offensive coach, I mean, I love it when you can tell the defense what you're running and you still do it effectively. But when it's happening to you, it's not as good.
Yeah. Coach, real quick before we let you go, if you could pick out one kind of wild card thing for this game that might turn it. I mean, obviously, Coach Sacco talked about the penalties. What sticks out in your mind as something that maybe really could turn this game on a dime?
If I think the Byers kid, if they kick the ball off to him or punt the ball to him, I think that could be a major key. I would try and keep the ball out of that kid's hands if I was Mater Dei as much as possible. I would not punt the ball or kick the ball to that kid because he just makes plays happen. But other than that, I really think if St. Joe's just sticks to their ground and pound and runs the ball like I know that they can, I think St. Joe's will come out on top.
Good stuff, Coach, man. We appreciate the analysis, and enjoy the rest of the weekend, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. That was Andrew Dipasquale. He's assistant coach over Holy Spirit. Wanted to get his take on the Mater Dei versus St. Joe game.